The Heat went up to Atlanta with a 2-game lead over the Hawks, and after a delayed start, they looked sloppy and lacking polish for most of the first half during Game 3. An incredible third-quarter comeback gave Miami a sizable lead, but in the fourth, Miami's offense lost focus, and a Trae Young floater with 4 seconds left sealed the game, a 111-110 loss that included an injury to a key player. What went wrong? How does Miami bounce back? We'll break it all down on today's playoff edition of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Heat Nation. It's a late Friday edition of Locked On Heat, your daily podcast covering all things Miami Heat, however you may be listening or watching on YouTube, Odyssey, or on your favorite podcast app. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every day. I'm David Ramil, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Wes Goldberg. Friday night's game was delayed for almost an hour after a suspicious package was found outside of Atlanta State Farm Arena. The game eventually did tip off, but Miami's offense, a strength during the first 2 games of the series, both Miami wins, of course, was still missing, particularly from long range. Miami shot just 26% from 3 in the first half and went into halftime down 7 points. In the third quarter, the Heat turned things around, however, outscoring the Hawks by 15 points in the period and building a double-digit lead of their own after scoring 21 unanswered points. But when Kyle Lowry was taken out of the game for what the team is calling a hamstring injury, with no details regarding his availability for Sunday's Game 4, Miami struggled to find any rhythm in the fourth quarter. They shot the ball surprisingly well, but it felt like they were playing catch-up with the Hawks for most of the game. They got a combined 19 points from Trae Young and Bogdan Bogdanovic. Miami hung tough, of course, and a P.J. Tucker 3 with 54 seconds left put Miami up by 1, and the defense eventually forced a miss by Atlanta, and with the ball in Jimmy Butler's hands, it seemed like they might escape with a win. Instead, the possession went absolutely nowhere. They dribbled out the clock. It seemed like it was just a waste of time, basically, with no clear purpose, no clear rhythm as to who would get the shot. And it resulted in a Jimmy Butler fadeaway jumper from 22 feet away. Bogdanovic secured the rebound, and with just 9 seconds left, kicked it to Young, who raced down court before the defense could fully settle in and put up a floater with 4 seconds left. The shot fell, and Miami just couldn't score to close out the game, resulting in a 1-point loss. The series stands at 2-1. With Lowry's health in question and Game 4 on Sunday, all of a sudden, the series feels very different than it did over the last few days. Wes, are you concerned about Miami Heat at all?
I'm not concerned about them losing this series. And from the very start, I will take some blame here for this loss. In our thumbnail on YouTube for the last video we posted, it says it's a wrap. This one's on me, guys. My bad. I'm sorry. I was feeling really confident. I was feeling confident for a reason, though. This wasn't misplaced confidence. I just thought that the way Miami was defending Trae Young, the kind of shots that they were getting, I didn't think that a night like this was going to happen, but it did. And so my concern level for this series is I have no concern. I don't think that the Heat are going to lose.
Just as an aside, sorry, Wes, I don't mean to interrupt. Even as we're recording this, a tweet from Dave McDenon of ESPN. Caught up with a limping Kyle Lowry on his way out the arena. He said his left hamstring issue has him, quote, pissed the fuck off, end quote, and he plans round-the-clock treatment heading into Sunday's Game 4. When I asked if he could miss time, he said, no, quote, I'm Wolverine with a grin. So that's the end of the tweet there. So hopefully Lowry will bounce back and be available for Game 4. Sorry, I didn't mean to
it's a good news update there, and it's something that's important for Heat fans to know. And we'll definitely break down the Lowry implications later on. But as far as the bigger picture on the Miami Heat, I'm not concerned about them losing this series. What I am concerned about was the fact that the issue that this new rotation, this new version of post sideline quarrel with Eric Spoelstra version Jimmy Butler, all this, like the issue that we had been dealing with for so much of the season, which is the half court offense and just the stagnation on that end of the court, it finally reared its ugly head again, right? And it had been a long time, but we saw it again. Too many 2 or 3 minute stretches in that fourth quarter without a bucket, right? There was actually a couple of them, and that's what allowed Atlanta to get back into the game and win this game by 1 point. And there's other things too, right? Atlanta made a bunch of threes that they weren't making in game 2. Miami missed a bunch of threes that they were making in games 1 and 2. But the thing that I want to focus on here, David, is Jimmy Butler. In the last minute and a half, 3 3-point attempts and 1 long 2-point attempt. That's not good offense. I don't care. I don't care at all about, hey, get the ball into your best player's hands and let him do something. That's not good offense. I don't care that I don't care that everybody on the Heat says that Jimmy Butler can make them. He just needs to shoot them. I understand that he just came off of a game where he made 4 of 7 and he's feeling confident in all this stuff, but it's not about Jimmy taking the threes. It's not that I don't want Jimmy to take the threes. It's just when you watch the game, those weren't good threes. They were all on the move. There weren't catch and shoot attempts. There was like Duncan Robinson, like Steph Curry threes. Like those guys, they can take them. Jimmy Butler shouldn't be taking them. And there's so many other options on offense for the Heat to go to, which has been a strength of theirs, and they're not going to it late. I thought after the rotation stuff, after the sideline quarrel, like all that stuff was kind of fixed, and it was. This was the first time we really saw this.
First loss with Max Strus as a starter, yeah. I mean,
first real loss, right? The Magic one doesn't count. It's the first real loss since the rotation changes. Jimmy Butler, after the game, says he was asked about what the play was on that final possession, and he goes, "Get free, shoot it, make it. I didn't make it. I'll make the next one." I don't really care about the "I'll make the next one" part. What I want to focus on there is the fact that the whole play was get free and shoot it. With 4 seconds left, that might have been the play. I'm not saying that was not the play. But there had to be better options for the final
last
minute
4
and a
seconds.
half.
Yeah, okay. Because I mean that to me, what was even more egregious in the last 4 seconds. Again, with 4 seconds,
you're inbounding
the ball. Yeah, the possession before that, you're up 1 after the PJ make. Your defense holds. You force a long shot by Kevin Herter that rims out. You secure the rebound and you bring the ball up slowly and you're dribbling out the clock. And then from that point,
I hate that.
Nothing happens. And I don't like the idea of putting so much blame on Jimmy, and I'm sure that a lot of our listeners and viewers will because, well, the ball's in his hands, and you saw what he was capable of in game 2, and this is almost the exact opposite of that. And yet, I don't know where else to lay the blame. And I think a big part of it is actually Erik Spoelstra's fault, too. Like, this is where the issue with that sideline quarrel kind of seems like it's come to a head here, where Jimmy wants to do things his way, and Spo has no choice but really to say, "Okay, Jimmy, I guess so." And
yeah,
that's kind of unfortunate.
I don't know if that's what it was, though, because we've seen this behavior from Spo in the past with Dwayne Wade, and I know that Jimmy Butler is not Dwayne Wade, but in a lot of ways, Spo treats him that way, right? And I think there is an old school part of Erik Spoelstra, and maybe it's the Pat Riley teachings or wherever it comes from, but an old school part of Spo that says just give the ball to your best player and let him make a play. Right. And I think it's empowering to players. It's why guys want to play for Eric. It's why Erik Spoelstra is like the only coach Jimmy Butler has ever gotten along with. I think that's partly they have that sentiment. But you know, I'm with you. Like it's again, I don't have the problem. I'm with you. I don't have a problem with Jimmy Butler taking 4 shots in the final minute. I really don't. I don't care who takes the shot.
It's the kind of shot
can't look the way that it did. Right? Exactly. Right. And when you're just sort of doing that BS Rondo crap, kind of letting the ball roll to half court and then picking it up and then draining seconds off the clock, I just can't stand that stuff. Right. The Heat's strength on offense is the ball movement. It is the cutting. It is using the entire shot clock, not just standing there and taking it down and trying to get one final good look. No, it's getting the good look. Get the good look, especially in a fourth quarter where you had a pair of 2 and 3 minute stretches where you weren't scoring. You don't get the benefit of the doubt here, man. Like, you don't get to just drain the clock down. You're not Kevin Durant. You're not Jason Tatum. You're not Luka Doncic. You're not Steph Curry. You don't get to do this stuff, man. You need to lean into what this offense does well, and that's move the ball better than anybody in the league. It's cutting better than anybody in the league. It's screening better than anybody in the league. And that's not hyperbole, David. I truly believe that the Heat are the best in the league at those things, and they just didn't do any of it. For the final minute and a half, it was just, hey, Jimmy, bring us home, man. And it wasn't fair to him, and it wasn't fair to the Heat.
I'd say maybe a big part of the issue might have been resolved with Kyle Lowry out there, but the reality is that we've seen the offense still de-evolve even with Lowry out there, which is kind of unfortunate. Again, even players themselves knowing the strengths of this team and what Lowry and Butler do well in sharing the ball and passing and everything else like that, they still have moments where they kind of just fall into ball watching mode and then let Jimmy go to work. And that's unfortunate. Maybe Kyle would have done things a little differently. Maybe they would never have been in that position.
He could have organized the offense, and that's exactly what we're talking about, right? And Kyle Lowry, it's notable, he was a plus 18 in this game. His backup, Gabe Vincent, not the Gabe Vincent we saw in Game 2, right? He was a minus 15, telling that Miami basically went without a point guard for long stretches after Lowry got hurt with the leg injury there at the end of the last 2 minutes of the third quarter. I think you're right. I think you hit it on the head there. I think had Kyle Lowry been in that game, the Heat win, right? And it's not to blame it about injuries or anything like that. Like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying, had Kyle Lowry been in the game, the Heat probably win that game, because Jimmy Butler a couple nights ago was saying, like, hey, having Lowry, that's the benefit of having him, is that I could just go be a scorer. I don't have to worry about all this stuff. And then in the final couple minutes, he had to worry about all that stuff. He wasn't good about all that stuff, and he ended up just putting up bad shots.
Well, we do have to lay blame, and we'll do that in the next segment. Then we'll look ahead to Sunday's Game 3 in the last segment. But before we do that, just want to tell you about a sponsor of the show. Do you know why free trials renew without your consent? It's a business scam out to get you. Don't let greedy corporations pocket your money. Download Truebill to take control of your subscriptions. Truebill is the new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, you don't want, or you simply forgot about. On average, people save up to $720 a year with Truebill, because companies make subscriptions hard to cancel. Truebill makes it incredibly simple. You just link your accounts, and Truebill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions with just one tap. Truebill has saved over 2 million users, and it's helped save them over $100 million. You could be next. You could be part of that action. If you don't want to save money, I don't understand why, but Truebill is the solution for you. So don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now to Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. It could save you thousands a year. And speaking of saving, I know a lot of people are trying to save themselves and perhaps even cut out calories here and there, stick to a healthier diet. It's really tricky. I understand that, especially with the stress of the playoffs. Sometimes I find myself binge eating and things that sort. I imagine a lot of people do too. If you're at watch parties, you're probably having the wings. You're not necessarily having the food that makes you feel good about yourself. But you know what? There's a solution to that. That's called Built Bar. We've been telling you about it for a while. It's a great treat that's indulgent without sacrificing any of the flavor, and cuts out calories and gives you all the nutrients that you might be looking for in a regular protein bar. They're all soft, easy to chew, 100% covered in chocolate, and they come in a variety of different flavors. Find which one is your favorite, or get a mixed box with different ones that you can try if you haven't tried them already. They're all delicious. Again, soft, easy to chew, 100% covered in chocolate, with all the nutrients that you might be looking for in a protein bar. So go right now to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15. You get 15% off your next order. Use the promo code LOCK15. That's just for our users, for 15% off your next order at Built.com.
Thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NBA game across the league from our panel of NBA experts. Available on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. It's time to get in the kitchen, David.
Sadly, getting into the kitchen, sadly.
There's nothing worse than getting into the kitchen, sadly. Am I right?
Yeah.
Talking about binge eating and not having any Built Bars on hand. That's when you end up reaching for like the potato chips, and you got crumbs all over your T-shirt. That's where we're at right now on this Friday night. We got crumbs all over our T-shirt.
Yeah, mustard stain here and there. Yeah. It's not good. It's
not a pretty sight. It's almost as ugly as Miami's late game offense.
Yeah,
it's time to whip up some blame pie. I want to have a conversation here about this, because I'm not really sure where to put this. I've got who I want to blame, and I'm pretty sure I've narrowed it down to two people.
Oh,
it's not Jimmy Butler.
No, it's not.
It's Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah,
and it's Bam Adebayo.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I feel like at least a quarter of the pie might be headed towards Gabe Vincent.
See, the thing with Gabe is that when you have the games like you have in games 1 and 2, that's icing on the cake. That should not be like the expectation with him, especially on the road in the playoffs and his first real experience. I'm like,
it's a fair point.
I'm not going to put any of this on Gabe. Like, he's a role player. Like, when it comes down to the playoffs, it's your coach and it's your star players, and they got to step up. And we kind of talked about the Spo stuff already, right? I just wish there was better organization late in that game. I just don't really know
Did
how
he
much.
acknowledge it in the post-game presser at all? Like, what did he say about the late game offense?
Well, he didn't acknowledge any blame, if that's what you're asking. I think he nailed it. He said, we got some looks. We'll have to go back in the film and see if they're good looks or bad looks, like whatever. They were not great looks. We know that they weren't great looks, but he doesn't tell the media that, I guess. But and he also talked about like the Onyeka Okongwu offensive rebound there. I forgot one of Atlanta's guards shot the ball. Okongwu skies over / fouls Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo. Gets the offensive rebound and the putback with 1:41 to go. That put Atlanta up by 2, broke the 104 tie. And that was really tough because there was only 2 seconds on the shot clock when, I think it might have been Trae Young who took the shot, actually. It was only a couple seconds left on the shot clock, and it was just a long, deep three that was not a good shot. And Okongwu gets the offensive rebound and the putback. And like I said, it breaks the tie there. No foul is called on Okongwu, even though I thought there was one. I thought it was
he was impactful
pretty clearly. He was
good.
good. It was his best game of the series for sure. But I don't know. That's why I'm trying to have the I don't know how much we should put on Spo, but I know that there's a hefty amount of blame pie that's being served here to Bam Adebayo, because at some point this guy needs to step up. And you and I have been pretty similar in this about the fact that everything that Bam does defensively is worth it, and you keep him on the floor no matter what. And even if he's not giving you a bunch of stuff on offense, what he does overall is a positive impact and a big one. But tonight and over the last couple games, we just have not seen that level of aggression in a matchup that Bam should be dominating. That's the thing, that this is not Joel Embiid, right? Joel Embiid potentially looms in the next round, but the way that we're seeing Bam play right now, I've got no confidence in him being able to go toe-to-toe with Joel Embiid at this point, because he needs to take it to the Hawks. Like, you're telling me you can't dominate John Collins and Danilo Gallinari? That to me is crazy. This is what he's scored over the last the first 3 games of this series: 6 points, 9 points, and 13 points on 5 shots, 6 shots, and then 9 shots. He's shooting it well, David. 45% overall. That's a pretty decent percentage for him, especially because so much of it is the floaters and all that kind of stuff. But he needs to be taking more than 5 shots, 6 shots, and 9 shots.
I'm like even trying to think about it, and it just seems like he's not a part of the offense at all right now.
Right.
Like, I'm not sure exactly. They're not going to him. They're not utilizing him, with the exception of a couple of plays from either Kyle or Tyler in particular, tossing a lob in that general direction. It's not like he is getting the ball and they're asking him to go to work or anything like that. I'm not sure what Collins is doing to keep him off the block or to prevent that. I'm really not sure. Like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and maybe that's just more indicative of where Bam is right now as an offensive player, that I'm not even watching out for him. I'm watching Tyler, I'm watching Strus, I'm watching Jimmy and PJ Tucker, corner threes, etc. And not Bam.
I think why is because they're running so much guard actions against Atlanta, and maybe that's the game plan. Maybe it's, hey, Atlanta's guards can't guard us, and for the most part, that's true. And by the way, they were up 2-0 with the highest point differential in the NBA playoffs up until tonight. Right. So maybe, it was working, obviously. But I wrote about this on my Substack at the end of the year. I can't remember exactly when, but it felt like Miami's late game offense started to become a lot more of Kyle Lowry running high screen and roll with Bam Adebayo and allowing Jimmy to exist on the perimeter and do the things that he does well. Cut, drive, be a second side driver, all that kind of stuff. And it kind of gets him downhill and leverages his strengths. And I really haven't seen any of that in this series. And maybe that's how we get back to Spo in this blame pie discussion, is because I'm with you. It doesn't feel like Bam feels like it is a part of this offense. And I wonder just what happened with the basic Bam Adebayo pick and roll stuff. Like, no disrespect to Okongwu or John Collins or Danilo Gallinari, but Jesus, like, this isn't Rudy Gobert that you're playing, right? This isn't the Milwaukee Bucks defense that's on the other side there. It's the Atlanta Hawks. Like, you should be tearing this team apart on the roll. Why aren't you?
Yeah. That's a great question. I don't have an answer.
No,
I
I
don't know
know.
that Bam does.
Yeah.
I just, I mean, you did some reporting on that months ago. It seems like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep track at
January,
this
I
point.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, where it felt like turned a corner, and then all of a sudden he stopped turning
You
it.
wonder if he has a similar kind of thought process, right? Because that was the game where the Heat go into Boston. Caleb Martin puts up more shots than Bam Adebayo does in that game. And Bam Adebayo on the flight back, it was that was the big blowout loss to the Celtics. And Bam talked to Malik Allen, and he says, "I got to do more," right? And he told Chris Quinn, he told Eric Spoelstra, "I got to do more." And you just wonder if after this kind of loss, Bam turns around and says, "I got to do more." Pretty telling in the post-game press conference, David, that he was asked about this stuff, and he was probably the most frustrated I've seen him all season in a post-game presser. He's usually pretty reserved, optimistic. Yeah, if he's not optimistic, he's kind of just quiet and reserved, but never like short, never frustrated. And he was kind of giving Ira Winderman from the Sentinel the business a little bit, kind of just doing. He didn't quite next question him the way that Karl Anthony Towns did a couple nights ago, but it was right there. It was a cousin of the next question, is what Bam Adebayo was giving Ira there. And that to me wasn't a good sign. But maybe it's enough to get Bam, to look inward a little bit and say, you know what, I got to do more. Yeah,
and he does. And I think that's it. There's no way around it. Like, you devote as much salary as he does. And this isn't Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson is more limited as an offensive player. Like, he can only do so much offensively, and Miami has devoted a large part of their offense to get him going for most of the season. This is different. Yeah, Bam is an anchor. He is the building block for this franchise. When Jimmy's retired, Bam will still be here on this roster, and he's got to be able to find a way to step it up. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if he's able to bounce back in Game 4. Anybody else that is deserving of blame play? Because I mean, the Lowry injury, we talked about that. We're going to talk about it. That obviously had an impact on the game. But to me, it was, I think you nailed it in the first segment. A lot of people are going to want to lay the blame on Jimmy. And I think there's part of the blame is on Jimmy. I think it's on everybody. But the point of the matter is the Heat need more from Bam Adebayo. It's kind of been the thing that we haven't been saying over the first couple of games. And obviously you get away with that when you're up 2-0, but now you've lost a game and you got to win one of these on the road. I saw a tweet about Jimmy labeling it as a savior complex. And I know that's somewhat a hyperbolic, on Twitter and things of that sort. But I mean, that's the nature of the NBA. I just think that you'll always have players that want to carry your team, and you kind of live and die by that. That's just the nature of the NBA.
Nothing about that is unique.
Yeah. One player in particular I know who has passed in these kinds of situations, and he spent the first 7 years of his career taking a lot of crap for it before he came to Miami. So I mean, I think that's just you try and force the game, or you try and make the right play, and more often than not, you're going to.
It just comes down to details, right? It's exactly like don't drain the clock, like move the ball a little bit. Like, it has nothing to do with Jimmy taking the shots. It's just making them better shots. That's all. Yeah. That's a good point. All right. Well, we'll wrap up today's episode and talk a little bit about the bigger picture and how Miami might respond in Game 4. But before we do that, just want to tell you about a new sponsor, Shady Rays, an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else, Shady Rays' insane protection program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair. They'll send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. So give them a try, and if you don't love them, you'll pay nothing. It's as simple as that. They're backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. And on top of that, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays, exclusively for our listeners. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code LOCKEDON for their best deal of the season, 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses. Just a reminder that you can always reach us via email at lockedonheat@gmail.com or via Twitter using the hashtag AskLHeat. Be sure to please subscribe to the show and leave a review. Thank you so much to everybody who's been following us throughout the playoffs. And again, we'll be bringing you not live recaps, but recaps of every game as soon as they end throughout the playoffs. Not sure if this music matches the mood of tonight's recap. It's a little secret agent-y. I don't know.
Yeah.
What did you want me to play? Like Joni Mitchell? Like, what did you want me to do? You wanted sad music?
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. Something about my baby saying goodbye
Oh
on
boy.
the way out. Yeah,
No
I mean,
way.
it's not. I mean, this is
People
just
have to
not.
listen. People have to want to listen to this, David.
Yeah, I'm not like to answer my own question to you in the first segment. I'm not exactly down either. I was a little concerned even in that first loss when they were down by a significant amount. My feeling was that Miami was still playing better. They weren't missing
Yeah.
shots, and I know that's a lot of fandom interwoven there. And even though I find myself being less or more unbiased than most journalists or that cover teams and things of that sort, I just wind up I saw the Heat team. They were putting up shots. A lot of them just weren't falling. Their
No, I
defense
was
was
with
still
you. I
pretty
thought
good.
I actually was pretty confident in the beginning of the game when they kind of got down to that deficit. I was like, you know what? This doesn't feel like it feels like this is one team making shots and another one not making shots. And you looked at the percentages. Wasn't Atlanta shooting like 60% in the first half or
Yeah,
something? It was,
yeah,
and then they made that 21-0 push in the third quarter.
yeah,
And I thought that this game was pretty much done. And then like we were talking about, Kyle Lowry goes down. The
yep.
offense stagnates and old problems kind of crop up again.
Well, it's funny. It's just their fourth quarter. They actually shot the ball remarkably well. If I'm looking at the numbers correctly, they shot like 10 of 25 overall from the field, 40%. Not great. 5 of 12 from 3-point range. So they're shooting. Maybe that was
Atlanta just shot
earlier on in the
better
fourth
and
quarter.
they got to the line. That's all.
Yeah,
Like at the end of this wasn't like they lost by 20. They lost by a point.
right. Right.
And we're literally talking about
more
one
shot by Gabe
basket.
Vincent. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what Miami scored 110 points. Atlanta scored 111. We're talking about details at the very end here. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's not like Miami played poorly. They just clearly did not execute. Our job here is to talk about it for 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and we got to find,
No.
and there are things that you can always do better in a win or a loss, and that's kind of what we're getting at here. But I also know that going forward in Game 4, I don't think you can react too strongly to this Game 3. I still think the game plan is working. Trae Young did not kill them, right? He hit 6 for 14, 2 of 6 from 3-point range. The turnovers were down, right? He had 10 turnovers in Game 2, 3 turnovers in this one. And Atlanta won the turnover battle, I'm pretty sure, for the first time this series. But Trae Young still 24 points, below his season averages, all that stuff. Like, it's still the game plan's working, right? It's working. Just you got to execute a little bit better down the stretch.
Bogdanovich has been the most dangerous player for the Hawks.
Unbelievable. Deja vu in the fourth quarter, wasn't it?
Yeah. After 19 points in Game 2's fourth quarter to cut it close. Of course, that time Jimmy was able to save Miami's game. But Bogdanovich single-handedly carried them there. They got 10 from Trae in the fourth, 9 from Bogdanovich, but still he was hot shooting. Finished with 18 points in the night, 7 of 17 overall. Much more efficient as a scorer, not relying on the free throw line as heavily as Trae Young. Young getting those superstar calls, a lot of which I personally disagree with. But even if Miami is able to find a way to dispatch the Hawks and advance to the Philadelphia 76ers to take on the 76ers, which looks like they're probably going to be able to get past the Toronto Raptors, that's a series that I'm not looking forward to at all, because the Sixers, well, let's just say they're not exactly the most easy to watch team. But let's focus on Game 4 here, because we've gotten some what seems like good news from Kyle regarding his hamstring injury. But let's look at the flip side of that. What if what if he's missing? Gabe would start. I think that would be the obvious choice. And then it would be up to him, basically, to determine whether or not he's going to be able to play the role that we've seen him play throughout the season and be able to step up now that he's kind of, knows what it's like to be the hated person traveling on the road and going into playoff atmosphere and things of that sort. Maybe he was a little shell-shocked by it, although I don't necessarily think that was exactly the case. He just shot the ball poorly. But I would assume he would start. Given that, we've seen him kind of take over the role. I saw a lot of people clamoring for the possibility of Victor Oladipo. Any thoughts on whether or not Oladipo might get some minutes now if Lowry does wind up getting hurt?
Not the right time, I don't think, for Oladipo. Not this matchup. I think Gabe Vincent, despite not a great game tonight from him, has done enough defensively, which is the key here. The entire game plan is to contain Trae Young. I have not seen Victor Oladipo play, like, historically he's been that level, but not this season. I haven't seen it happen. We've seen it from Gabe. We've seen it on Trae Young. We've seen it this entire series. I would start Gabe. What I would do from there is have Caleb Martin get some minutes, and I would really explore going back. So no Oladipo in the rotation. It's just not the right series. But I would explore that PJ Tucker at the 5 lineup with Caleb Martin at the 4 a little bit more. We didn't see it tonight. It really did unleash Jimmy Butler in that last game. And I know you don't want to take Bam Adebayo off the floor. And the only reason we got to that lineup was because Bam got into foul trouble. But I think there's, Bam's not playing the entire game, right? No foul trouble tonight. He played 35 of the 48 minutes. Okay. Well, those other 13 minutes, I'm not saying you need to completely revamp the rotation, but can you get 6 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes of PJ Tucker at the 5 and Caleb Martin at the 4 with Jimmy Butler, or just PJ Tucker at the 5 with Jimmy Butler at the 4 and 3 shooters? Like, I would like to see more of that. I kind of found myself in this game being like, just go to that. I mean, the offense was so easy for Jimmy. It was literally just him and 4 shooters, and he just got to do everything he wanted. And it kind of felt like at the end of the game there, with as ineffective as Bam was and just kind of setting really poor screens at the end, he really didn't get back fast on that Trae Young floater. Like, he wasn't as quick to get back on defense as I thought as he normally is.
Tucker was riding his hip. He got past him, and if I recall correctly, Jimmy was already down court, and he kind of just like took a step back, challenged the shot a little bit. But to Young's credit, he wound up putting a nice floater over Jimmy.
The point is, like, I found myself kind of wanting
something
for that
different,
PJ Tucker at the 5 lineup, and just taking Bam out. I think for a couple minutes here and there over the course of a game, it could swing a game a little bit for Miami. So I'd be interested to see if that happens in Game 4, if Spo goes to that a little bit more. I asked him about it at practice at the end of the week before Game 3, and he said he basically gave me a non-answer, and that we'll see, but he didn't say no. And he made the good point. Like, they had experimented with it over the course of the season a couple different times. And I think it's one of those things where, all right, you've got it. It's in the tool belt, right? Like, you can kind of use this in certain pockets of the game. And I think that tonight they could have, and I would look forward to maybe in Game 4, maybe doing it.
Yeah. I know it's a loss. We don't normally do this, but I should also shout out PJ Tucker. I think he played a pretty solid game overall, including that big 3 towards the end. And Max Strus, his best game of the series. This is a guy with no playoff experience, and he stepped up admirably tonight.
I had the over on PJ Tucker on PrizePicks. They were giving him only 5.5 points. I was like, give me that all day. And he ended up with 11, right? I mean, he's been really good this entire series. I would go so far as to say he's probably been Miami's 3rd best player this whole series.
Well, we'll see how Miami bounces back in Game 4 on Sunday. Of course, we'll have a recap for you after that game. So make sure to please subscribe to the show so you can continue to get the best coverage available. And also make sure to follow Locked On NBA, Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. This is David Ramil signing off for now. Thanks for joining me, Wes.
Wrap it up, B.